I can't hear you yet. I don't even know if you can hear me.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I got you now.
All right, I can hear you as well. Your name's Sean?
I am. I'm Sean. I'm the guy from the video.
Nice to meet you, Sean. My name's Steven.
Hey, Steven. Nice to meet you too, man. So I just want to set one tiny little ground rule here. There is no PowerPoint. There is no sales pitch. At the end of this, you're not going to hear me say, if you buy now. None of that stuff. This is just two guys in the construction industry having a conversation.
Great.
The first question I like to ask is, what did you see that got your attention?
Just the market. You know how there's just less people. There's less contractors that can apply for federal jobs. So it's a smaller market with a bigger chunk of change to go after.
Yeah, more return for the effort.
Yep, and it just seems more secure than, I don't know. I've worked government jobs as well, in my career, and I just, it seems like God is leading me through an opportunity, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. The next thing I like to ask is, did you see anything other than the ad? In other words, I don't want to repeat parts of the story that you've already seen. Some people have seen all 200 videos I've ever put out, and some of them have seen them twice.
I briefly watched a little bit here and there.
Okay.
Not too many videos, so.
Okay, so we're starting from scratch. The next thing I like to ask is, do you have any questions, immediate questions?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there's questions, obviously, or else I wouldn't be inquiring, but there's not like any immediate questions. If there's like, I'm more interested in hearing what you have to say.
Okay. I do have some questions. Tell me a little bit about what you have been doing.
Well, I've been in the construction industry my entire life. Right now, I'm an electrician, and I'm wanting to open up a business, and this is the direction that I want to go. I've been an electrician for about 16 years. Right now, I'm currently a commercial foreman, running multi-million-dollar jobs. So,
Okay.
It's just the next step that I want to go, and this is where I want to manifest my life and what I want to do.
Okay. Part of this conversation is I have figured out over my career that people in the construction industry have what I refer to as very good, fine-tuned bullshit meters. And so part of this conversation is for you to decide if I'm full of shit or not, or I really am what I say I am. I've done over 1,000 federal government contracts that generated over $1 billion in revenue. So I've sold a lot of construction goods and services to the government. I have never had a license of any kind other than a driver's license. The only thing that makes me a federal government contractor is that I'm registered with SAM.gov. That's your ticket right there. I have never been an electrician, but I have installed miles of electrical wire. I've replaced transformers, switch gear, variable frequency drives, installed electric pumps, bearings, you name it. I've done it for the federal government. And these are buzzwords that I know from your industry, even though I'm not the guy that goes out there and puts the 3-phase wire in and possibly puts the phases in reverse direction for the motor. So those words right there should establish with you that I know what I'm talking about, because you told me you're in the electrical industry. How are we doing? Okay?
Great, yeah.
So let's talk about what happens in real life. In real life, we have an economy. and the economy is constantly changing. It goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down. And we as contractors don't really pay attention to that because we're just going to work every day and getting shit done. But what happens in an up economy is the phone starts ringing more. We don't know why, it just does. It starts ringing more. And when it rings too much, what do we do with our prices?
Raise them.
And we're going, hey, I must be a genius getting into the construction industry because I'm making all this money, and isn't that great? But then all of a sudden, that phone stops ringing, and you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything different. It just stops ringing, and you're going, well, what the hell? Last week I was the greatest thing that ever happened to the electrical industry, and next week I'm not, but I didn't do anything different. What's happening is people are pulling back. The economy changes, and it goes down. But then sometime in the future, all of a sudden your phone starts ringing. You didn't do anything different. Nothing changed. And you start riding a wave again. Our economy is constantly changing. Now there are economists, Alan Greenspan, and all these people that affect that. And I don't claim to be an expert. I just can tell you that I've been in this business for over 3 decades, and I see this happening all the time. Do you know what the greatest crash, the greatest recession we ever had was? Have you ever heard of it?
What are you talking about, the Great Recession? I felt like, could have been 2008,
Well, we're going to talk about that, but the biggest one was what you're referring to, the Great Recession. Do you know what year it was?
1912, I think.
It was 1929.
Yeah, I was going to say 1930 was my next guess, but that still was a little off. But yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It happened in 1929. It was the stock market crash, and it crashed the economy of the country, and most people, I don't know the numbers, but I think it was 9 out of 10 people were out of work. Our president at the time was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. In 1933, FDR issued a plan to put Americans back to work and save our country's economy. Do you know what that plan was called?
I don't recall that, no.
The New Deal.
Okay.
It was called the New Deal. And what he did was he issued a whole bunch of money out to the contractors across the country to build roads, bridges, and dams. You can Google the New Deal and you can read the Wikipedia on it. But FDR saved our economy by issuing federal government construction contracts, and he did something different that had never been done before. Prior to FDR's New Deal, when the government spent money, it was a cost. Hey, it cost money to buy stuff. But FDR changed everything. He negotiated with Congress, and he said, when we build roads, bridges, and dams, the value of our country goes up. We now have an asset. He balanced the books in this way, and that had never been done before. And that was really when federal government construction really took off. Now, that's how he saved us from a down economy, the New Deal. Flash forward to modern times, and when was the last recession?
2008.
2008, 2009, who was our president?
Must have been either the Clintons, I think.
Nope, it was Obama.
Obama.
Okay? And Obama issued the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. He issued $150 billion worth of federal government construction contracts out on the street, and there wasn't enough federal contractors to do it.
Okay, so they just basically repeated a pattern that they tried in the past.
That's right. They wanted to save the economy by issuing a bunch of federal contracts. They put a whole bunch of work out on the street, but there wasn't enough contractors to do it all. It's tragic, right? So, 2010, my dad and I decided to start teaching contractors how to get and perform federal contracts to help solve this problem. Too much money, not enough guys to do it. Okay? For over 10 years, on the other side of this whiteboard is a room, and I've been teaching contractors how to get federal government contracts. Flash forward to 2023, who's our president?
We got Biden.
Biden. He issued the Infrastructure Act. Have you heard of it?
No.
Well, you can Google that. I'm an evidence-based business. Everything that I tell you, you can Google, and we're going to Google some things in a minute. But I'll tell you that Biden has passed the Infrastructure Act to help save our economy from a recession. He's issued trillions of dollars worth of money that's going to go into the federal construction market. Okay? And that's all happening right now. So, this is the start of what the opportunity is in federal government construction. Now, contractors, what they do, the smart ones, the guys that are smarter than you, when the economy's going up and then it starts to turn down, what they're doing is switching into federal contracts. So in other words, as it goes up and starts to go down, they switch off here and go after the federal money. Then when it gets over here and switches up, they go after the federal money. See how that works? So that you get the advantage of the up economy, but then when the economy scales back, you just switch into federal contracts. Make sense?
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about how our government procures construction goods and services. So, our government has an operating rule book for how they buy stuff. It's called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. We call it the FARs. And it's one rule book, and it operates over the entire federal government, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, whether it's the National Park Service, National Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Indian Affairs, CIA, FBI, IRS, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Corps of Engineers, Air Force, Marines, Environmental Protection Agency, United States Post Office. All these agencies operate under one rule book for how they buy construction goods and services, and it's called the Federal Acquisition Regulations. You and I are going to talk about one Federal Acquisition Regulation. Just one out of a whole bunch. We're going to talk about FAR 13.004A. And now it's time you need to Google something. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm on my phone, but go ahead.
I want you to Google FAR 13.004A.
Okay, give me a second here. Legal effect of quotation.
Stop right there. So we're talking about legal, so it's a law. Remember, I said the Federal Acquisition Regulations, this is a legal rule book. We're talking about the legal effect of a quotation. So let's just stop right there. Look, in the real world, if you give me a quote to change out a transformer, is there anything legal associated with that quote? There's not. It's just, how many quotes do you give a week?
Yeah, there's not, no.
There's no legal effect to that quote. So what I'm establishing is that it's different. In the real world, there's no legal effect, but in the government world, the first line is legal effect of a quotation. That's different, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Now, I want you to read the first sentence of that legal effect of a quotation and stop at the period.
Okay, 1 second. A quotation is not an offer and, consequently, cannot be accepted by the government to form a binding contract.
Okay, stop right there. In the real world, if you say, Sean, I need you to change out a transformer, and I give you a quote and I sign it, and I give it to you, and you sign it, what do we now have?
A contract.
That's right, we have a contract. But the very first sentence of the government side, the legal effect of a quotation, what does it say?
It's not binding.
That's right. They cannot take your quote and turn it into a contract. It's the very first sentence. They cannot take your quote and turn it into a contract. And that's different because if I give you a quote in the real world, you can turn it into a contract. Right?
Okay, I hear you.
Okay, now read the second sentence out loud.
Therefore, issuance by the government of an order in response to a supplier's quotation does not establish a contract.
Now, again, this is written by attorneys. It's written by Congress. Okay, so it's legalese. But what that second sentence means is that we, the government, we know that we have a lot of people working for us. And someday, some contracting officer somewhere might make a mistake and take a quote and turn it into a contract, even though the first sentence says you can't do that. So we're just covering our ass that if that ever happens, that's null and void. Don't worry about it. People make mistakes. That's what that second sentence means. Okay? Now read the rest of the paragraph out loud.
The order is an offer by the government to the supplier to buy certain supplies or services upon specified terms and conditions. A contract is established when the supplier accepts the offer.
So that's, again, legalese, but let me explain to you what this means. Look, the government does want to get quotes from you, but they can't turn it into a contract. So now we're establishing what has to happen in order to take a quote and actually turn it into a contract. And what it's going to sound funny to you because this is the first time you're hearing it, but I give them a quote for $100,000 to replace a, I don't know, 25, 70, let's say 100 kVA transformer, okay? And then they take that quote and they have to offer it back to me and say, hey, you gave us a quote for $100,000 to replace this transformer. Would you please do this job for $100,000? That's what they have to do. When they do that, you have 4 options. 4. Number 1, you can accept. Number 2, you can withdraw. Number 3, you can negotiate. And number 4, you can stall for more time. Now, understand that our government has work to do. They need the 100 kVA transformer replaced. I gave them a quote for $100,000 to replace that transformer, but they can't turn it into a contract. They have to offer it back to me. When they offer it back to me, of the 4 options, what are they trying to get me to do?
Accept it.
Because they got 10 more jobs behind it. They want to get this one off their desk. Hey, just go do it, and then so they can move on to the next one, right? But I don't do that. I don't accept the job when they call me. What I do is I stall. I say, I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting your call. Can I call you back in 24 to 48 hours? I'm just trying to get them off the phone. when I get them off the phone, I call a guy like you. Hey, Steven, my name's Sean. I'm a national federal contractor. I do everything from wind tunnels, water treatment plants to kitchen renovations. I'm calling you today because our federal government needs a 100 kVA transformer replaced. And it's my understanding you're an electrician in the local area, and I'd like to get a quote from you. Now, I'm not asking you to go look up every spec, everything about this transformer, what type of oil it's got into it. What I'm asking is, you replace transformers every day. Could you please just give me a price off the cuff that if I called you 90 days from today and said, hey man, we got the job, that we'd be close enough to negotiate something that makes sense for both of us? In other words, I'm alleviating the pressure off of you to give me a number off the cuff. So in this hypothetical situation for a 100 kVA transformer, Stephen, give me a number, how much to replace the transformer?
Probably 20,000.
Okay, so I turned my bid in for 100. The guy's telling me he can do it for 20. I call the government back up and I accept the deal, and now I make $80,000 just by making a few phone calls. Give me another hypothetical number. How much to replace the transformer?
50,000.
I call the government back up, I accept the deal, and now I make $50,000 in a couple of hours. Give me another scenario.
I mean, I hear you.
Well, you're not there yet. Give me the $150,000 scenario.
Okay. That's when you renegotiate with the government.
Or I just withdraw because, whoops, I fucked that one up. But the other scenario is $95,000. I call them up and I negotiate the job to $130,000. But I have all these options. Look, every bid you ever turn in, they can't turn it into a contract. Every call you get, you can always withdraw from the deal. So the question to you is, based on what you just learned, is there any risk to you as a federal contractor turning in bids?
No.
No.
I see what you're saying.
Okay?
Yeah.
Look, most people in the construction industry will work for between $20 and $250 an hour. But there's some people in the construction industry that are making tens of thousands of dollars per hour of their time, but they're not telling guys like you how we're doing it. I'm the guy that teaches that. What you just experienced was 10 minutes of training out of the over 27 hours of training that I provide. And it's all like that. You want to see some pieces of it?
Sure.
This is what it looks like. This is day one of the workshop. A small clip right here.
And then put the BIG over the opportunities. Big problems equal big opportunities. If somebody needs something and they really need it, they're desperate to get it done, you understand that's the opportunity you're looking for, the need. Okay? You focus on the need. Everything gets focused on the need. What's the need? Do you have a budget? Once I understand the need, I focus on it, I understand it, repeat it back to them. Is there anything else you want to elaborate on? Or anything else I should know? Okay, problems like that usually have a budget associated with it. Can you share that with me? Do you understand how we go from the need, fully understanding the need, and then to the budget, figuring out what the budget is before we get going?
And here's some day two of the workshop.
In fact, I don't even mind telling them.
All you need. You need him to look in there and go, yep, that's bigger. That's all you need him to do. No money, no nothing, just yep. Okay? So he calls the inspector out. The inspector, yep. He says, what I do next? Tell the inspector that he should, hey, you should ask the contracting officer to send me an email asking for a price for the bigger size. Because that's legitimate, right? How many times do contracting officers send out an email?
And here's some day three of the
price?
workshop.
That's not a marriage. That's not a
Do you
commitment.
remember me saying that the rule was if there's only one bidder, and that bidder is 15% or more above the government estimate, they cannot award the contract? Why does our government, in their infinite wisdom, have that rule? Anybody?
Protect the tax dollars money.
Protects tax dollars, right? Because Sally, what's she trying to do? Get George's job done. He needs it. It's his money. He went and asked for it to fix his fish hatchery. It's sitting on her desk. He needs it done. It's not going to get done until she finds a contractor she can award it to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
When you invest with me, what it looks like on your end is this. Day 1 of the workshop is 10 hours. Day 2 of the workshop is 11 hours. Day 3 of the workshop is 7 hours. And then I've got a little supplemental video to do some updates and things I wanted to talk about that weren't really covered in the other 3 videos. We've been doing this for over a decade. We've got a lot of clients. Did you see my proof page?
No.
Okay, so it's one thing to tell you that guys go through my class and they make a lot of money. Okay, I could be lying to you because, at the end of the day, I'm trying to sell you some stuff. Okay? But I put together an indisputable meaning that you can't argue with me that what I'm about to show you is true. When you come to my class, do I know your company name?
Yes.
Yes, I do. So I started tracking guys who have been through my workshop and what they did with the information that they learned. I posted it on this website, gcexperts.com/proof. Now on this page are videos. If you play these videos, they're going, "Oh my God, you guys are awesome." But that's okay. It's that high you get when you just learn something. Okay? And that's fine. I like that people say I'm awesome. But if you look here, this is Dennis of AMG. You can see AMG on his shirt. This video, when you play it, it says that this video was taken in 2014. Okay? There's a public website, public meaning not my website. It's called usaspending.gov. You can look up any federal contractor on usaspending.gov and you can find how much contracts they've been awarded by the federal government. I made a quick link that you just go straight to that guy's page. This is his forward-facing public profile on usaspending.gov. So in other words, it's not me saying he got $4 million in contracts. It's them saying he got $4 million in contracts. But what's even cooler is you can see he went to the class in 2014. He started getting contracts in 2014. That's why I call it indisputable. Andy of NBT, he says he's of NBT. You click on his link and you see the federal contracts that he got. Make sense?
Yeah.
So as you go down this page, even a guy that came through my class a year ago, this is Kevin. When you hit play on Kevin, he says, "Oh my God, you guys are awesome, and I started a year ago." Since that year started, he's gotten $1.6 million in contracts. How do I know that? Because of his public profile on usaspending.gov that shows he's gotten $1.6 million in contracts. When did he start getting contracts? Last year. In other words, it all adds up. My whole story adds up, and it's indisputable.
Well, I mean, I believe what you're saying. I believe I already see what you're doing. You know what I mean? I get it. I hear you. But I got questions. Now I got more questions.
Great. I'm the answer guy.
So I would be the one who would have to fill out the paperwork with the federal government, right? And then, am I getting that correct? To be able to even
My
put
wife
in a
can
bid?
do that for you for $700. She can get you fully registered.
And then what about the contractors? I mean, they don't have to be registered. They don't have to go through stringent, having the employees' clearances, drug tests? You know, what is the
not
contract?
drug tests. Look, on some federal facilities, because keep in mind I've done 1,000 federal contracts, so I've got 1,000 stories. All right. Nobody's going to be asking anybody anything out in the middle of nowhere for the National Park Service doing an air conditioning install, okay? But yeah, if you're working in a federal courthouse, you're going to have to go through some background checks. So, you know, if you're working in the Pentagon, you're going to have to go through some background checks, okay? If you're working in NORAD, you're going to have to go through some background checks. But you just take that as it is, and when you're talking to the subcontractor, you're telling him, hey, this job is inside a high security facility for our federal government. Make sure that your guys can clear a background check. You just have that conversation up front.
And so I would be working, like, I would be doing nationwide. I wouldn't just be doing it in the state that I'm in, huh? Like, because
why
it's just
limit yourself? That's right. It's just phone calls. It's clicking now. I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get what you guys are doing. So how much is your course then?
All your money that you've ever made, ever, it's $5,000.
Okay. And that $5,000 includes the setup with that you said that your wife would do?
When we started GC Experts in 2010, I looked my wife in the eye and I said, geez, we're going to get a lot of guys into this thing. You're going to have to be the best there ever was at getting my guys fully registered with SAM.gov. I said, go do a few of them and tell me how much. And she said $700. It's been that number for over 10 years. It hasn't gone up. It hasn't gone down. She wants $700. She gets you fully registered. I don't care. It's only one thing you have to do one time. And once you've got it done, you're done. And we move on.
Yeah. And where are you based out of?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. And the course would be in person, or is that an online thing?
I mean, it literally looks like this. What you're seeing right here on my screen is what you are investing in. It's a recording of the... Look, understand, for 10 years, I was teaching this class on the other side of this wall, but before the pandemic, I was recording it. Not because I knew the pandemic was coming. I was recording it because I just thought it was cool. People were paying us a bunch of money to learn this shit, and I thought that was neat. So I recorded it. Then the pandemic happened, and I went, oh boy, can't bring anybody in the room anymore. And I went, oh, I got all these recordings. I'll put all these recordings together and I'll create a super workshop. So I did. I put it on the internet. You know what? Guys like it better. Why do they like it better? Because they can pause it and they can go down the street and take their kid to school. They can come back and hit play. Or if they have a question, they can pause it and get on a Zoom call with me and go, hey, Sean, I was just watching this part of the workshop and I got a question. And I go, great, let's talk about it. Are you seeing this?
Yeah.
It's even better than that. Hey, Sean, I've got a question about how to fill out paperwork. Well, no problem, brother. Got it right here. Let me show you how to fill out this paperwork.
Well, you know, because I'm green, you know what I mean? Never had a business, and you know, I realize that. I mean, that's the direction I'm ready to go. You know what I mean?
Well,
and,
the question becomes, the way that I teach, and you have gotten a very serious, in-depth version of how I teach. Do I teach in a way that you can learn from?
Well, yeah.
That's up to you. I can't make that decision.
Well, definitely. But I'm just saying, like, well, let me ask you about your personal experience. As far as just estimating in itself, where did you learn to come up with your estimates in having it?
That is a very good question, and I have a very good answer to that. Now, this is going to sound like a trick question, but just go with me on this.
Okay.
How much money have you spent in the last 25 years?
Probably $2 million.
It's a big number, right? It's not $10,000. You've spent a lot of money in the last 25 years, right?
Yeah.
When you go into an Office Depot and you see a printer on the wall, even if you don't see the price, can you associate a price with it?
Sure.
Okay? And what I'm telling you is that if you've spent a lot of money in your lifetime, you can get a rough idea of what things cost just by looking at them. And now, if you walk out and you see a transformer on the street in a neighborhood, can you roughly put together a number what it costs to replace that?
I mean, but I'm always low, you know what I mean? And I guess it'd just be a trial and error. Like,
Okay,
I don't know.
so you're always... Stop. So you're always low. Can the government take your bid and turn it into a contract?
No.
Are you going to make a phone call and ask some guy that knows more about pricing of this shit and ask him how much it costs?
Sure, that's a possibility, yeah.
Are you going to go back and raise your number if you're too low? In other words, not accept the job if you're going to lose money?
Sure.
Where's the math problem here?
Okay. Yeah. All right, man. Well,
keep asking questions. You got my full attention. There is no hurry. There is no pressure. Nobody at the end of this call is going to say, now I just taught you that, and now you owe me money. That's not going to happen. All right? This is just two guys.
I mean, it's not that. I mean, I just got to save up $5,000. I got to get a business started. You know what I mean? I got to start putting in the work.
Well,
I mean, this is putting in the work. You know what I mean? Like, this is all part of the destination.
It is.
But no, I don't have any. The phone number that you have, that's how I'd contact you to sign up for the class.
I can send you a link right now. I can text it to you. It's real easy. Just go in here, click a couple buttons. Let's see. Here, you can even watch it. There you go.
DCExperts.com, the workshop. All right. Right on, Sean. Hey, man. You seem like an awesome guy, and you know, it interests me. It does. So, you know, that's the start. I appreciate you taking.
It is a start, for sure.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, yeah, I don't have any more questions, so I appreciate your time, man, and you have a great night.
Okay, at the end of this, there's a little video that if you haven't seen it, it's kind of interesting. I'm going to click that button, and you can watch it for a minute or two to your heart's delight.
All right. Thanks.
We'll ask